Hello and welcome to the Brass Junkies. I am your host, Andrew Hitz, and I am joined by my colleague, my co-worker, my spiritual guru, Lance LaDuke. Lance, how are you?
I feel like a coworker.
We just had an incredible conversation.
That one, that was a big inspiration. I didn't know Chanell before this. You did. You've known her a long time, but
Yep, Chanell Crichlow, who is a tuba player, a sousaphone player, a flugabone player, a singer, a producer, a marketer, an entrepreneur, a wife, a mother. There's a long list of things that she does and that she does really well. And what a wonderful conversation.
it was really fun. It was really, really fun. I learned a lot, and I was heartened to know that there's someone who's as passionate about the flugabone as am I.
Yeah, there's like at least two of you. So yeah,
it's twice as many as I thought.
Yeah, they nerded out on the flugabone in the bonus episode. So, and her advice for Jens was absolutely grade A, top shelf. That was, you know how in the bar when they got like the whole tower and there's like a bottle at the top that's got a light under it and like this came out of that bottle. So there's like that bottle has a large marketing budget. So, and that's where this Jens advice came out of.
She set the bar, pardon the pun, set the bar high for the first post Jens advice for Jens. That's pretty good.
It was awesome. And she's recently, you're going to hear, moved to LA, and she doesn't actually know Jens yet, which is just perfect. So, anyway, Houchin Horns.
Houchin Horns, new sponsor for us. Thank you so much, Houchin Horns. We have, I want to encourage you to go to our website just because it's awesome, which is houchinhorns.com. There's a bunch of really cool stuff there. And actually, if you buy anything at Houchin Horns and use the promo code Junkies11 at online checkout, you get $500 off your purchase of a new instrument. Holy free holies. They have mouthpieces by Giddings, Greg Black, Pickett, and many more. They have a unique Virus brand of products, specially designed by the craftsmen and pro musicians of Houchin Horns, and they are a premier brass pro shop with an impressive lineup of the best instruments, accessories, sheet music, and more. So go check them out. Free in-person virtual equipment consultations with the team of professional musicians. Thank you, Mark, for making this happen. So go visit houchinhorns.com.
Excellent stuff. And also thank you to everybody who has gone to patreon.com/thebrassjunkies to become a Patreon patron. We've got a long list of bonus episodes now. There's there's a lot of them. There's like 60 or something like that, bonus episodes and you get instant access to all of them. We add bonus material every single week. Some that's just Lance, some that's just me. Every month, rather, there's like 5 things that we put up there for various Patreon levels. Some that are both of us. But go check that out at patreon.com. And thank you to everybody who's left a rating or a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get the Brass Junkies. So without further ado, let us get to this fantastic conversation that I had with my buddy Chanell Crichlow. And today on the Brass Junkies, we are joined by one of the more talented and versatile people on the entire brass scene today.
Thanks,
she's laughing because yes,
bad.
Lance. And we're also joined by our guest. No, it's our guest who doesn't like it when I say nice things about her, but they're true, so she can deal with it. Her name is Chanell Crichlow. Chanell, how are you?
I'm good, Andrew. I'm good. How are you guys?
Not bad. I just had some toast, so that kind of set me up.
Ooh,
Really?
I just had toast.
Sourdough? I had
French toast.
sourdough.
I did have sourdough. Yes.
See, there you go.
And they were sharing flugabone stories.
That's
like
right.
they're like, yeah.
Common, me and
There you
Lance.
go. That's right.
Separated at birth. So
I think so, yeah.
they go way back to what, 13 minutes ago, maybe?
Something like that, yeah.
Ish.
Separated by birth and decades.
Yeah. Well, there is that she's not like, old and bitter. Yeah, but other than that, you guys are virtually the same. So, so Chanell, I honestly don't even know where to start with you. I mean, you
We've
play
known each other a long time.
You what now?
I said we've known each other a long time. So
yes. But I just mean in terms of like what to talk about, like with your career, because you wear, in general, if someone told me, if they hired me as a consultant and were like, I want to learn how to do these 12 things, I would be like, how about you choose like 5 of those, or else you're going to do the 12 probably at not like the highest, and I'm actually very much opposed to like choose one thing and just get amazing at it. But like, you do an impossible amount of things really, really well. You play the tuba, you play the bass, you produce, you songwrite, you're an entrepreneur, you're one of the 2 best flugelbone players on this call. There are
she's the best.
I know she is. I was trying to be nice to you, Lance. She's easily the
best.
That's
what threw me off.
So let's start with this question, which is maybe not a good interview question because it's so broad, but like, how did you get to do so many things?
Well, I just love being creative. I think it's one of those things. Like I was thinking about this, and if you like come up to any artist, like, a visual artist, right? They might be into taking photos. It might be a photographer, but at some point down the line, they get interested in a different medium. Maybe they want to work more with their hands. Maybe they want to do textiles, or they want to do some painting, and I think it was just really a natural progression for me, who I just kind of felt like the world is a wide open space. Why not take advantage of other things that you might be interested in? And I think as musicians, we don't really see ourselves that way until I feel like much more recently. We really didn't feel like most of us kind of felt like I've been told many times, like, put all of your eggs in one basket, by different teachers or mentors or whatever. And that's just kind of the way we kind of approach things, especially when coming from, I think, classical music, because it's such an intense field. We have to work so hard. I mean, you guys know, you've done it. You've been in one of the best brass ensembles across the United States. So you know what it takes to kind of fine tune your playing and your performing. And I think a lot of people didn't really kind of, believe that you can do many things. And I think it's true in some sense. Like, yeah, there's going to be things that you do better than others because you just don't have the time. That's just what it is. But I think I've just always been, as a tuba player, I feel like unless you're in the right position, in the right place, I think tuba playing can get at some point a little bit limiting for me, or it did for me. And not because there aren't things that I could have done more on tuba or do more with. I feel like I'm still excited about that. But I feel that I really feel like I had to make my own bands and make my own ways of feeling, like being fun again with tuba, and not just waiting for what was going to come to me. So I kind of always had that in my mind. Like, I gotta, like Howard Johnson told me that, like, don't sit around waiting for a gig. Don't sit around waiting, thinking someone's going to ask you to be in their band or whatever. You got to create your own. So I've always had that mindset, and I think I've had teachers like Velvet that told me, go do it. I've had people like Howard Johnson and Bob Stewart told me, go do your own thing, because I think, especially Howard and Bob, they come from that, they come from that.
Yeah,
so it was just one of those things. And I've always tried to not shy away from things I'm interested in, even things that aren't music related, So that, I think that's just part of my personality and something that I find fun,
So you undoubtedly there were people who cared about you and about wanted to help you, but probably gave you the opposite advice and said, "Don't do that. Really focus on this thing." How did you? What did you do with all that? I mean, how did you navigate those waters?
You know, I tried really hard for many years to go down the path of being an orchestral tubist, right? And I've had many people kind of push me along. Yeah, like you said, many people who loved me and wanted to support me and give me, what kind of part of their experience, what they've been through. And it wasn't until I went to Penn State and I went to one of those tuba euphonium conferences, and we went to one of the tuba euphonium conference, and there was a whole panel of people, and Oystein was on there, and he just said, he said something really simple, and it was a panel. He was the only soloist, and it was a panel of, maybe an orchestral player, someone from the army, and maybe Jim Self does film. So, and Oystein, who's the soloist, and he said, no one can play, no one could play better than, no one could do Oystein better than I can do Oystein. No one can be me better than I can do me. So, and he was basically just kind of referring to going up, practicing for months and months and months for that deadline of that audition, going in there and having to kind of come up with a formula of what you think they want. And it really resonated with me. So that moment I'll never forget, because I went home that day thinking, okay, that's it. I had plans. I had planned to audition for the Detroit Symphony. I auditioned for the New Jersey Symphony right out of school. So I had a couple of plans going along that path. And then when I heard that, I was like, you know what? I think I really do need to focus on my own thing and my own voice, because I'm not sure if I want to spend 10 years, 15 years trying to get in to said orchestra and not achieving the goal. I just think I just didn't want to waste so much time. I don't know what else to say about it, but it just wasn't for me. And I kind of used that moment as a defining moment for me. And I think when people my old teachers see what I was doing after that, I thought they felt like, oh, wow, that's great. You found your voice. So I don't really feel like they felt, hurt by it or anything. I just felt like they resonated with what I was doing,
Okay, so you're in this session and you hear Oystein and you have this light bulb aha moment. What was the first thing that you had stewing in your head that was like, well, that means now then I can do X? And so what was that? Or those?
Brass band. When I was young, I was listening to Youngblood brass band constantly. And they were like huge inspiration to me. So when I knew already before then that I wanted to start a band out of school. I thought maybe I'll wait a few years, and things like that. But I knew that I wanted to start that. So as soon as he said that, I said, okay, I got to get this going when I get back to New York City. That's the first thing, nothing else came into my mind.
So you go back, and then what's the next 6 months look like?
Emailing people on Facebook, calling people, hey, I'm trying to start this band, you want to be part of it? So I just reached back to all my old Manhattan School of Music homies, and I was like, hey. And then I met some people doing gigs. I met Elena. I met Elena doing gigs, and I was like, hey, you sound amazing. You want to be part of something? And people said yes. You know what I mean? Some people said yes, and then they left. That was early on. And some people said yes, and they stayed, So, that's what the next 6 months looked like. And then we got things together pretty quickly, We used the old MSM. I was working at MSM at the time. I was working in their dorms, and we used MSM, even though we weren't going to school there, practice rooms, and we got kicked out. They didn't like us in there, but we took advantage for a while.
It is easier to beg forgiveness than ask permission.
Yes.
Yeah. If you were to say, "Excuse me, Mrs. So and So in charge of blah blah blah," none of
Yeah.
us are students here, but I do work in the dorm. Would it be possible for us to use free rehearsal space? We'll waive all legal liability. We'll just consider this email. They'd be like, "Hell no."
They're like, nope.
Yep.
Nope.
Wow. I would also just like to point out for the record that the times that I have heard Chanel's playing a recording of just straight ahead classical music on a big tuba, you sound phenomenal. Like your sound is just like it's like a pillow. It's like exactly the kind of sound that I want to hear at the bottom of an orchestra. So
Yeah.
just in case any non-deep thinkers are connecting any dots that aren't there to be connected, like, well, she, what, like, I firmly believe, and the math says that you, me, or Lance weren't gonna win one of those big auditions. It doesn't matter who you're talking about, right? But like, you absolutely had the skills to be able to pursue all of that with a completely straight face because you sound amazing on the tuba in that style. So I wanted to paint that picture as context to your decisions.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, and hey, I love it. I still love it. I mean, you spend, half your life doing that kind of music, and it's part of you. I mean, that's my foundation. That's where I
Yeah,
go to every day. Every time I pick up the horn, that's where I go to. So,
right.
you know,
Well,
No,
and
that's great.
if you didn't have that foundation, I don't know how successful you would have been in creating the band. There's a level of credibility. It's sort of the minimum
yeah,
price of admission is you need to be able to play your instrument at a crazy
definitely,
level. Yeah.
definitely. And I think that was the cool thing about this is that we took about most of the musicians who came out of classical music, right? So there was a huge learning curve, and for me, still, I'm learning like improvisational music, Black American music, jazz, whatever. So there's a huge learning curve in that sense. And then we had a few people that really knew jazz or improv music. So yeah, there was a huge learning curve in that sense. But yeah, the playing, the sound quality of the band was huge because a lot of people came out of that. So yeah, you definitely had to. Yeah, it was different in that sense.
Well, let's get in the weeds a little bit. So for the people who came out of the classical side, stylistically, what was the hard part about switching up the approach?
So for like feel feel is a huge thing. Most of us had it, but with certain things, especially when we played with Pharaoh Monch, for example, right? He's a big name. He knows what he wants, and especially he worked with a singer um, called Showtime, and Showtime would be in rehearsals with us, and Pharaoh not so much, but Showtime would just keep it on. This is years and years of doing Pitch Black, right? This is like years and years later. He would come with us and be like, "Nah, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it." And it wasn't infuriating. It was like eye opening. It was like, whoa, okay, this is real hip hop. This is the real feel. This is Black American music, and it has to go a certain way. It has to have a certain feel. If you're not feeling it, it's absolutely trash. And I think that's one of the things that that's a huge part of it. And then I think the other part of it is, kind of improvised music. We all came from different styles. We had a trombone player that came from more of a ska background. We had our sax player came from more of a traditional jazz background. So when we wanted to do more hip hop or Black American music, current day, we don't want that kind of like old jazz kind of sound that you learn in schools, where it's just like scales just thrown at your face, and you don't want like just like kind of like reggae, like like a kind of like reggae kind of like I don't know, like it's kind of like white people sounding ska kind of sounds. So you want this sweet in between, you know.
If I could interrupt you for a second, bad reggae, which I usually refer to as suburban reggae, is my least favorite music that has ever been created by humans. You didn't ask, but I thought you might find that
Oh
funny.
my
So,
god, I've heard so many. I've heard so much bad reggae. We play with so many bad reggae bands. Let me just tell you. with like white guys with dreads. I mean, they were nice people, but it was just
Well, they were stoned. That's why they were nice.
And this is somebody who hasn't done the work to be able to articulate it. But to me, reggae is what's the quote about pornography? Like, to define pornography is like, I don't know what it is, but I know it when I see it, right? Like, and reggae is like just the feel or the style of reggae. It's like it either hits or there's the other 95% of the time when it's just like not. It's like, this is not porn. That was a super disturbing analogy, but it's like, but I think it works.
Yeah, no, exactly. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. So, we had to find that sweet spot where it's like kind of what's ingestible. I mean, I hate to use that word because it sounds like it's marketing, but I do marketing, but it's like you have to find a sweet spot where people really want you to say something and people want to feel something. So I don't think, the two musicians that are in the crowd, right? They're going to be like, wow, that's really cool. She did blah, blah, blah. And, how amazing talent. But all the other people, they just want to feel something with the music. They just want to be hit with something. And for me, I always felt like that was the simpler, the better. The simpler you could get across a melodic idea or a feeling just with two notes. That's really what I was going for, and that's what I think we had some sort of a learning curve with that, So because in the end, you're trying to create some sort of popular music, some sort of pop music, even though we come from all this, really traditional kind of music, Yeah.
I love how, speaking for myself, and a lot of the teachings that I had and a lot of the colleagues that I had, like growing up, like, as a classical musician, we would refer to like pretty much any improv as jazz. It's
Right.
like this like gigantic umbrella term for basically that's not anything like, like Western European classical music is just jazz, or there's always the world music, but that's like jazz that I understand even less than the jazz. It's like this, like the three kinds of music. So we should talk about the Papert people, Lance, is what I'm thinking.
I feel it. It's time to talk about the Papert people. Can you feel it?
I mean, I felt, that's why I said it. I felt it, obviously. I wouldn't have said it if I didn't feel it.
So the Mary Papert School of Music at Duquesne University is a fine institution. And there's a bunch of fantastic professionals from the Pittsburgh Symphony and beyond that teach in the brass area.
And Jim Nova.
It's a great lineup of faculty and some very cool opportunities there. And the fine folks at the Mary Papert School of Music have been a long-standing sponsor, and we want to encourage you to click on the link in the show notes and go there and look and see what you can do. And then reach out to Jim Nova and say, hey, how is it that I can come to your school? Because Andrew and Lance said that I should do that. And then he'll say, well, here's how you do that. You fill out an application, I digress. Thank you very much to Duquesne and to Jim. Bend over backwards to help you, Nova, for making it happen.
Hey, Lance, in a few minutes when I read the Parker Mouthpieces spot, I need you to remind me to read an extra little something, because there's something that will make Chanell laugh and will make everyone laugh. That I will
write down extra little something
spot.
Right now.
So, yeah, there you go. So, Chanell, you had, I believe when you were in, so I'm getting this tidbit from the wonderful interview that you did with Carol Jansch, which we are going to link to in the show notes. If you're enjoying hearing Chanell and you're not enjoying what Lance and I are contributing, just go listen to the interview with Carol, because she talks less, and it's wonderful. It's really great. You had a wonderful conversation. And her series on up and coming artists is phenomenal. It's important. It's great. Yeah. So, but you had, I believe when you were in middle school, you had Wayne Dumaine as a theory teacher.
Oh my God!
I gotta hear about my dear friend Wayne Dumaine as a professor.
Isn't Wayne Dumaine the best? He's just the best.
He is. He is.
Yeah, he was my theory teacher. He was one of my theory teachers, and he was also like one of my brass ensemble teachers, right? And the crazy thing is too, when you're that young, you're like, and he also plays the piano because he would play the piano for like our recitals and stuff, or like certain like for his students recitals, his trumpet students. Um, so yeah, no. So what happened was when I was like in middle school or something, we did this program at Juilliard called Music Advancement Program. That's my pug walking around. I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's fine.
We
We
did.
like dogs more than people, so it's no worry.
Okay, good. She's been pretty good this whole time, though. So Juilliard had this program called Music Advancement Program, and it was just for kids of color, which was really cool. I don't know if they have it anymore. I know that it stopped and then it restarted at some point. So anyhow, that was a really cool program because I was maybe like in seventh grade or something like that. I had just started playing the tuba, and I learned so much there. I mean, there were the formal classes that I never had before. And Wayne was kind of a huge part of that. So were the two. Now I always forget their names when I have to talk about them. But the bassoon player and the flute player of Romani Wins.
Monica Ellis and
yeah.
Valerie Coleman,
Yes.
who are two of the best musicians I've ever played with or been in the same room with.
Yeah.
So yeah, not
They're
so bad.
amazing. Like so they were also there, and at that time when you don't know anything about anything. When you're that kid, you don't know about Imani Wins, you don't know about you don't know about, you just think, oh, these people are just teaching us music, right? But it was a really great experience. And the thing about Wayne is that we've kept in touch over all these years, and the cool thing is we played with Manhattan Brass some years back with Pitch Black. So it was this big kind of roundabout moment where you play with people that you look up to and you had as teachers, in college. And it was just a really awesome moment. And
Isn't that wild when that actually happens? Something
yeah,
that's special about our business. A lot of businesses don't
yes.
work that way.
It doesn't work that way, and it's beautiful. It was a beautiful moment, and I'll never forget it. I don't think anyone in my band will ever forget it. And it was just like this feeling of mutual respect, and even I don't know. It was just yeah, it was a beautiful moment. And we've kept in touch still, and we keep in touch, and we check up on each other. And but Wayne is one of the best trumpet players, one of the best musicians, and he's just a really great guy. You know what I mean? And I think that when you are so talented and so not humble, but you know that you're a talented motherfucker, and you do the thing, but you're still like thinking about the younger generation and thinking about how can I best bring these kids up and give them opportunities. I think that's to continue to have that going when you're that prime. I feel like is really important, and I think a lot of people forget that. And that's one of the things I like about you, Andrew, is that you always, like, we're Twitter buddies, and I feel like you're always looking at the younger generation, and you're always trying to lift people up. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I always tell myself that's what I aspire to be the older I get, is just to make sure that I have people that I can mentor, or have people that I'm just checking up on to say, like, hey, here's an opportunity I think might work for you. What's going on for you? Let me check stuff out. I think that's a really special thing with a few people in this industry, which I think is beautiful. And he's one of
That's
those.
awesome. Yeah, he's the way that I put it is like Wayne Dumain is talented enough that he could absolutely get away with being a pain in the ass, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
to a degree, and to a pretty, like, I think, high degree, he could
Right.
be just kind of a pain in the ass, and he could be aloof, and he could treat people not really poorly, but not well on gigs, and he's just ridiculously talented. and prepared, and just like he's an artist who happens to play piano, who happens to play the trumpet, who happens to conduct. He's going to listen to this and he's going to hear me saying all this nice stuff about him, which is upsetting me. But you know, he does all that stuff. So you're right. It's like, you know, and that of course ignores the fact that it's easier to be nice, right? I mean, it's it's easier to be nice. Yeah. But yeah, that's great that you had that relationship with him. Think about that. She learned theory from Monica Ellis, Valerie Coleman, and Wayne Dumaine. Like that's like. So here's a question. At that point, since you had just started playing the tuba, did you yet realize that there was, especially in the classical realm, that you were that you were already in like a dominated by white people's space, and that this was remarkable, or was this just like normal to you, and then you figured out how it was maybe not normal, if correct me if I'm putting words in your mouth, but like after the fact?
I feel like that's a really good question, because I think when you're that young, you're not completely aware of
Anything. I wasn't.
You're not really aware of anything, but you're not. You look okay. For example, right? I had a picture in my room. Warren Deck, right? He was the guy before Allen, or right? Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a poster that, you know how you get rip out from their brochure. In the back, they would have like the full picture of the orchestra standing up in their seats.
Mm-hmm.
I had that poster in my room as a young kid. And
Nice.
of course, as a young kid, like, and I literally circled Warren Deck's face. I was like, this is where I'm going to be. And I was young, you know what I mean?
Great.
But I was like, you know, but of course, I'm thinking back about that because you asked that question. And I don't remember thinking as a kid, this orchestra is like 95% white.
It looks like this podcast without you as a guest.
I don't remember that, you know, like you don't think about that stuff when you're a kid. And maybe it's because that's how you grew up. Like that's how all images are. That's how movies are. That's how TV shows are. So you're not really thinking this is not normal. You're just thinking this is how it is. So I don't think I had that realization, but when I have to thank my mom when she found this program at Juilliard, I was like, wow, because of course you know about Juilliard at that point, yeah, even that young, and you're like, wow, I'm going to this program at Juilliard, and it's for only kids of color. I mean, that must mean that, you know, kids of color, the fact that they're doing the scholarship, you know, tuition free, it must mean something here, that there is some inequality going on. There's some lack of resource going on. Of course, my mom must talk to me about this, and of course I realized, and I think I definitely did not realize the full-on impact of, for example, like who I was studying with, at all until I was older. I didn't really feel the impact of it until I was older. I was learning more about different groups, and it was and I think when you hear them play too, because they had, which was I think was a huge part of this, is they had their own concerts. They had the faculty concerts, and I think that's when my mind was blown, because until then, I was just in middle school band, right? I didn't hear many concerts, and until I heard them play with their groups, that's when my jaw just dropped, and I learned that there's massive levels to this thing, and I'd never seen other Black people playing that way, especially not playing classical music.
Right.
Because, you know, I had seen some jazz concerts with Black people, but I had never seen it that way until I got to that MAP program, Music Advancement Program at Juilliard. And so, yeah, it was kind of an unfolding of things, I think, over the years, is that you realize that space that I had to ask questions that I wanted to ask, and to be around other people, other kids of color, and have teachers of color, I should have taken, you know, advantage of that. I didn't understand how beautiful it was for us to just have our own space and to learn classical music with us. And the way that we talk, you know, I didn't have to come there asking certain questions. I could ask any question, and she would understand. Valerie would understand me. Miss Kuma would understand me, and I didn't have to feel like I wasn't using the proper language or the, proper questions. It was just like, okay, this is how you do it. Yeah. Okay. I get it. And it was very just natural feeling. And I don't think I appreciated that until I was much older, to be honest. I don't think so.
There's something kind of beautiful about the fact that you didn't notice that in a way. I mean, I'm sure you'd like to, just that it was normal, it was like
Yeah.
every week like that. Yeah, that's which like, in the future, it sure would be nice if that was the case where every single kid who wanted to get involved in any genre of any art could just see representation of their existence,
Yeah.
everywhere. It shouldn't be something that you have to seek out.
Yeah, true. It's a huge part of realizing that you can accomplish something. Especially I don't know. Sometimes I like to think about a world that's different. And if I don't know if I'm going to be able to articulate this, but say that you're not seeing representation, but everything is hunky dory, everything is fine. There's no racism. There's no like years and years of people being held down to certain positions, and listening that all that stuff never happened, but you're still not seeing yourself, right? I think that would still be hugely important to see yourself, even if your group of people didn't have the you know that oppression. So imagine on top of that having all of this oppression and still not being able to see yourself. It's even more of a push to realize, hey, I can do that because I see someone else doing it. And I think with you know with white folks get to see themselves constantly. So for them, it's kind of like in that perfect world where, yeah, sure, I could do that. I don't want to, but I can. You know what I mean? Right? But for us, it's like, oh my God, like it's like I see this person, I can do this. It's like a glass ceiling just open up for us, and we can like go there. Whereas like, and I had to work really hard to like try and do what I wanted to do. I had to like make a decision. I felt like I had to make a decision at a very young age. This is what I'm gonna do. This is how I'm gonna achieve it. It wasn't kind of like, oh yeah, I can do that, whatever. I'm pretty good at that. I'm just gonna keep on going until I get like into something else. It was like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. So I feel like it is really important to have that, really important to have that. But I mean, I'm fortunate in the fact that I grew up in New York City, and had that diversity just built in, especially going to like a specialized school. Everyone wants to go to that school, so it's not going to be one of those segregated schools.
You went to
But
LaGuardia, right?
yeah, I went there, so it had this built-in kind of diversity factor to it, which was beautiful. And
That's the school from Fame, by the way, for anybody that doesn't know.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the beautiful thing about it. Growing up in New York City, I'm thankful for that, because I can't imagine being anywhere else. Well,
Although you just, although you I was just about to say you could like look out the window because you just moved, right?
I
Where did
know,
you move?
I know, I just moved, y'all. Sorry. New York City, man. Let's not talk about New York City right now because I love New York City, but I don't want to talk about, the negative side of New York City.
The so you just moved to Southern California, is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Whereabouts?
LA. Well, I was in Seal Beach before, but now we're in LA.
Okay. Yeah, I was following your journey and seeing you putting down roots out there like creatively in the middle of a global pandemic, and it was just
Oh my
like,
God.
because you do the usual and you were doing the right thing, but it's not as easy as like you show up
Absolutely.
at some jam sessions and you smile and you shake hands and and you like just I mean you could do
Yeah.
that, but that might kill people, so you probably shouldn't do that. So yeah, what a wild time, huh?
It's crazy, man. It's nothing like you would think, and obviously like it's really hard meeting people. I've just only met people over text message, over like Instagram, Facebook, and it's really hard. So my transition out here is probably going to be, yeah, I got here in July, but what's really going to start popping off is when this whole thing is over and we get that vaccine out to people, and I'm really going to start meeting people. So it probably going to be for a full on other year.
Right.
So that's just what it is. But I'm taking the time to like really dive in and dig in creatively. Like I honestly, Andrew, I'm having the most fun because no one can bother me. You know what I mean? Like I don't have to be anywhere. I don't have to rush to a gig. And I've just been practicing flugabone and tuba, and just been practicing my freaking, minor pentatonic scales up and down and back and forth, and you know what I mean, all the patterns, because I'm trying to learn this improv thing, and I've been just trying to work through a lot of different things. So I'm happy for it.
That's great.
So when the gates reopen, what are you going to build?
Well,
Look at him holding your feet to the fire.
no, right?
Known you for 45 minutes, and he's like, let's go on record with the world, Chanell.
Oh, see, now I'm going on the record. It's hard. See, like, oh, now I got to commit. Oh, okay. So I don't know, Lance, but one of the things I do kind of want to do, and it really depends on a few things, is I want to bring my brass band Extra Serb Horns out here in terms of creating a different chapter. So creating an LA chapter. That's one of the things I want to do. It's going to be hard because I think that the New York City, you guys know, it's an explosion of brass bands. Like there's just a shit ton of brass bands in New York City, which is beautiful. But LA, the landscape of it, everyone's driving everywhere. It's more spread out. I don't know how that's really going to work here, but that's something I want to try and do. I'm also working on, I've been talking to this film composer, actually, the composer, one of the composers who wrote the music for Lovecraft Country. Have you guys checked that show out? Oh yeah. So I've been talking to her, and she's just been giving me some assignments. So, I'm brand new to that, so I haven't done anything like that, and it's been a really interesting process. So I've been trying to work on that, and I just been trying to work on my production skills and music writing. So to be much more of a songwriter and a producer. So that's kind of what I've been working on out here. And of course, I want to get my big tuba sound into some films. And I know that's a hard thing to do out here too, because it's like anything else. It's like people have their places and things like that. But yeah, I think I'm just gonna have to go head in with the LA music scene and try and do as much of whatever as I can, because I'm pretty versatile. I like all different kinds of things. I just want to get into whatever, So that's
Hey, I need you to remind me. I'm going to say this on air so I don't forget. He's a violist, but I actually have a dear friend in LA who is so plugged into the entire scene that I need you to remind me to introduce the two of you, because you need to know this dude. So
I will definitely remind you. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I met a lot of great people out here already that are like thinking about me and trying to connect me to other people. Like, so I think that's a plus. It's just, I think people who have moved out here, they just kind of need to go with a different flow. It's a slightly different flow out here. So I hope that I can do the same thing.
What you outlined is a really nice map for anyone who's struggling with what to do during the pandemic. And now we're coming up, any students. So I'm going to put you on the spot and advise some students here. So the semester for most students in the U.S. is either done or about to be done, and many places have delayed their start. So there's a pretty good 6 or 7 weeks of opportunity that has fallen into a lot of students' laps. And a lot of people are, normally you would go get a part-time job or you'd go do XYZ, but there's a lot less, fewer opportunities, and also less interested in doing that if you can't do it safely. So now, if you have this windfall, how would you design a 6-week program if you were back in school, or if you were going to suggest a student, or it doesn't have to be a student, but someone who's fallen into a time like that? What do you look at? How do you go at that challenge?
Well, I think the first thing I would do is kind of write some notes. I'm a big note writer because I feel like it makes me remember things more with hand and paper. So I would just write some notes down and be like, what do I need to improve on this year? Like, what are the notes, for example, if you're in school, what are the notes that my teacher gave me saying that I need to improve on? Maybe it's like, double tonguing or something. I don't know. But whatever it is, take your time and plan out how you want to work on it. I mean, that's kind of what I kind of do in my own way. I say that I want to work on improvisation. So how do I build that up? First, I need to make sure that, my the skills that I'm trying to work on are practically, it's just super fluid for me in whatever key. So I go through all my keys and I spend only one key a day on a specific, and I do it really slowly, and I go to the ins and outs. So that's, if you have 6 weeks, I mean, one key a day, what I mean, that's 12 days. And that's just knowing, a few patterns, right? So that's what I try and do. I try and go through a bunch of different, I've been really getting into what do you call it, my stamp kind of technical, the
Mm.
trumpet stuff, because I want to focus more on just like mobility and just having the ease of the scale and the numbers of the scale come out to me. So that will take you, that's a solid 12 days. And I think you get really into that. And the other thing is I would do is try and learn something completely new. I mean, I think I like to push like all brass students and musicians to try and learn some bit of technology. I mean, like for you guys are doing podcasting. You've been doing it for how many years now? You said, right?
6.
And
Yeah.
yeah, 6 years. I think, for example, like I've been on some threads where people want to learn about podcasting in the brass world, and like for example, like Carol Yonch, she was like, "How do I get this up on a podcast?" I hope she reached out to you guys because you guys are one of the few people or the only people that do it really for this specific type of folks, like brass nerds, brass geeks, brass people. So I think learn a new talent, learn how to podcast, learn how to edit audio, get a DAW. And so I would just try and have them stretch themselves, go do the thing that you want to work on, whether it's improv or scales or double tonguing, whatever it is, getting a better tone. And then for the next 3 weeks, why don't you work on something completely new?
Mm.
Because I think, we just have to be so, like, what's his name? One of these bass player, he said it best, is like, if COVID has taught us anything, it has taught us that we really have to know how to do everything.
That's
I
right.
think the people that really survived COVID, I hate to say that, in terms of like financially, were the people that had different skills and could kind of move and shift their skill set. I think because a lot of people, like, a lot of people that just play, right, just play their horn, and their thing is like go on tours. I mean, you have to. A lot of them are learning new skills now, and we hopefully are all learning new skills. But a lot of people are like, shit, I can't just do this alone. And I think that was a really huge moment for people. So I would just tell them, spend the last 3 weeks learning and building a new skill.
Is there a particular either platform or idea or form that you think is ripe for opportunity? That you think, you know what, someone should do? There's a huge opportunity on either on this platform or with this model of delivering art or this piece of technology. Do you see any what catches your eye right now?
Instagram. I love Instagram. Of course, like TikTok. I mean, look, I just got TikTok. I'm like a little bit on the older side for TikTok. But someone wrote to me, like one of the people I really look up to. She was like, "Yo, you need to like get on TikTok because look at what they're doing. Someone's dropping a song, just a vocal part, and someone's dropping a bass line. Someone's dropping keys. You need to get on this and do that, right?" So there's people out there that are making a huge impact on those platforms. I think TikTok and Instagram, and musicians. I think, I ever since I look, I do marketing for, you know, I also have like another job, right? So I do marketing for that job. So sometimes I get marketed out, you know, like social media'd out. You know, I'm just not wanting to be on it. But recently, before I moved to the new place here in LA, I was trying to have this kind of a calendar thing where I put out videos, just like little snippets, like 1 minute videos. And I can't tell you how much of a impact those little, you know, videos have had on for me and for other people. People reach out to me like, oh my gosh, like this is like, let's collaborate, let's do this. So I really do think that looking at Instagram, I think is a huge way to get your little like ideas out there and to share it in a way that feels like non-committal, but also that you're putting yourself out there for the moment. I think a lot of people, especially in the music world, sometimes have a hard time putting themselves out there, putting their ideas out there. We wait for like the perfect moment. Oh, I need to make that Grammy record, that Grammy nominated record. I need to do this. I need to do that before. And then years pass and you haven't done anything. So my whole thing is just do something. Just put anything out there. You know what I mean? So and then learn from it. You know, that's how I roll. That's how I like to think of things. Because if I thought of things any other way, I wouldn't put anything out.
Yeah.
You know, so I think social media, Instagram is a huge platform. Have you guys seen those young kids, high schoolers? Have you guys seen those high schoolers just putting up like 365 days of practice? Have you seen those? I'm like, damn, can you imagine having that tool in school?
Yeah.
I can't.
I would have used it for a lot of good and a lot of, we'll just say, not good. Yeah. Luckily, I don't have to hide from any of that. So,
right.
If you follow Chanell on Instagram, then you not only get some badass videos, but you also get things like the photo of you and your wife with your son on Halloween, and your son is dressed like a piece of pizza. Nice. And it's like disgustingly adorable. So yeah, it's like it's offensively cute. So
how old's your son?
My son is the cutest. He is 21 months.
Oh my gravy.
Yeah. Me and Andrew, we message each other about how horrible being parents, how horrible it is being parents, and how hard it is. And it's really hard, but it's also like really rewarding. It's like the most rewarding thing I've ever done.
You know when it gets easier? Me neither.
I thought you were gonna tell me a number, man.
His youngest is 18 and he still doesn't know. So yeah,
my daughter's 27.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah.
I have to tell this story because it's perfect for right now. When my wife was let's see here, she was 7 months pregnant. The Boston Symphony Orchestra schedule for Tanglewood came out, and they were doing Mahler 1, Mahler 3, something like that. And my dad texted me and said, I want to get tickets inside of the shed, not to sit on the lawn, but, you know, it's like a big concert. I want to be inside. So are you free? You know, can you be around on July 29th? And my son at that point was, you know, ended up being 3 months old. And I said to him, well, Dad, because of our kid, like I think that I'm like, you know, I said, I think for the next 18 years, I'm officially a maybe. And he then responded in all caps, blah, ha, 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 send. And then the next text was, it's hilarious. You think it's only 18 years. Blah, ha, 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 ha. I couldn't hear him, but I think that's the hardest I've made him laugh in 45 years. So, or at that point in 40 years. So, yeah.
That's because he knows.
He knows. He's like, oh, that's adorable. You think that in 30, 32 that you're going to be fine. He's like, yeah you're not, dumbass. So, speaking of, I can't say speaking of dumbasses, even though he's such a good friend. Speaking of dads, I want to thank Parker Mouthpieces for providing the hosting for the Brass Junkies.
The father of Parker Mouthpieces.
Parker Mouthpieces offers fine, customizable component mouthpieces for horn, trombone, euphonium, and tuba, including the Andrew Hitz Artist Model Tuba mouthpiece and the Lance LaDuke Model Euphonium mouthpiece.
Can also be used on a flugabone, by the way.
You can find out more at parkermouthpieces.com, or follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And there it is. There it is. And what I needed to share was that for our Thanksgiving episode, so Michael Parker, who not only makes amazing mouthpieces, but he is my old college roommate. We are dear friends. We like to make fun of our sponsors, which is very weird. They literally give us money and then we make fun of them to a large audience. But we have people go to parkermouthpieces.com and send Michael emails about things that pertain to nothing in his life. Is just to entertain ourselves. And this one, Lance had them go and tell them how thankful that they were. Well, he sent me one. I got a message from him saying, "What did you guys do? My wife has been getting emails all day." And this one, the subject is "thank you," and he screenshotted this for me. "Thank you for sponsoring the egotistical, annoying knuckleheads from the Brass Junkies. Your support is detrimental because without you, Hitz and Lance wouldn't have the ability to annoy me every Tuesday." So, and that person said every Tuesday, which means they listen to the bonus episodes, which means this is a Patreon patron. So they're paying money to our egotistical asses to be annoyed. So they got some things to unpack there with the help of a professional, I think. But anyway, before we run out of time, I wanted to talk to you about, again, about like your songwriting, your singing, the flugelhorn. There's so much that we could talk to you about, but I want to hear actually about your producing. How did you get into producing? And if there was someone who was either, like a 45-year-old former brass quintet tuba player, or somebody young who's just like, wow, who clicks on your stuff as a result of this and is like, this is amazing. Like, where do you start? Like, where would you tell a young person to start?
Man, I would just say start with, if you have a Mac computer, start with GarageBand. I mean, because from there, most of them look the same. So if you start with GarageBand, and that's just saying, let's not spend any money. Let's see if we're into it. Go up to Logic. They're made by the same company, Apple. They're pretty similar. That's how I started. I started making terrible beats in college on GarageBand, and then went up to Logic, and then I went to Ableton, and I felt like when I went to Ableton, I felt like I was using something really heavy duty, and it was a slow process. It was a huge learning curve for me, just because I didn't consider myself like a technical person. But it was a huge learning curve, and I just checked out a ton of YouTube videos and I asked people for help. But I would say start out small if you can't afford it right now, because a lot of these things are pretty expensive. Mm-hmm. And then once you get into it, you can get something, a little bit more expensive. But either way, your ideas are going to be the same in whatever platform. So I would just say, come up with ideas, come up with, sing in your head, get it out on a mic, get it out on the keyboard, and go from there. I think it's just pretty simple to just think, I want to get an idea out, but I do think that some of these programs have a little bit of a high learning curve. But I think once you get past it, and it took me forever, Andrew, like I would be like, why is my mic not coming on? What's happening? What's going on? For like weeks, for weeks. So,
but you're tenacious.
Huh?
You're tenacious. Yeah, you're gonna figure it out. That's in a good way.
I got to get through it. So I figured it out. And once I pass that point, once you pass the point, and you will know exactly what I'm talking about when you pass the point. Once you pass the point and everything's up and running, it'll just be like that. You know what I mean? So that's what I would tell people, is just get into it any way you can.
That's great. And you're not going to become Dr. Dre in a week or a month or a year, right? Like either your ideas or the execution of them. I mean, yeah, it takes time.
And I wanted to get into it because I was tired of like sending my stuff off to people to do it, right? So I just asked those people, like, how can my kick sound as fat as your kick? What are you doing? So I kind of try and keep it. My goal was always like, how can I do it myself? I want to figure this out, So I kept on going, even though I had really a few really, really crappy months trying to figure this thing out. So that was kind of like my motivation, is I want to be able to get really good sounding drums myself,
Right.
So it's I would just say start there. But I mean, listen, there's so many resources out for people right now. It's unbelievable. It's really unbelievable. Yeah.
Check out all of her Tuba Fresh stuff. You can buy it on Bandcamp, which is always a good play if you have any money whatsoever. You know what's a really good idea, by the way, is if you get your Spotify list of like the 10 artists that you listen to the most, if you're able to actually purchase their album, especially, like that would be, if you want them to make more money or make more music, then that might be a good idea, even though they allowed you to listen to it as many times as you did. But you can check her out on Bandcamp. Yeah, you're all over the place, which is great. So
Yeah, Bandcamp is a solid place.
it is, right? And they
really support. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. They just I'm excited to they just recently announced the live streaming platform too, like in terms of for like events and concerts and stuff. And the early reports, like Zoe Keating I saw, like who's been getting involved in it early, said it's like the real deal. Like people who would know seem to be given a big thumbs up, and they're a company that absolutely puts artists first. So I'm kind of excited to see where that goes.
Nice. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
it.
So we have links to all of that in the show notes, so make sure you go there, including the Bandcamp page. So
Yeah,
there.
absolutely. Good. So now that you live in LA, you probably, whether you realized it or not, when you entered the city limits, you probably felt just like a creative presence about you, and that was our dear friend Jens Lindemann, of course, who is the the trumpet legend. Who teaches in Westwood at the University of California, Los Angeles. Although, as you've probably heard, he and Chanel, if you've not heard his episode 150, we didn't ask him to make fun of himself, as we're about to ask you to make fun of him. So instead, we let him make fun of anybody he wanted to, and he was brave enough to choose Mark Gould. So, and Gould hasn't called me yet, so he hasn't heard it yet. I'm just like every time my phone rings, I'm like, "Is it Gould? No, okay, good, yeah." So, but anyway. As you know, Jens is going through these terrible chop problems, and since you just described, it took you 3 weeks to figure out how to turn the mic on, but you got through it. So we think that you're uniquely positioned here to help Jens in this time of need. So what would your advice be to him for these ongoing chop problems?
Jens, the first thing I would say, I'm so sorry to hear about your chop problems, by the way. You've probably been smoking way too much crack the alleyways. So I know what that's like. So I'm gonna just tell you what I would do. I would just lay off that for a little bit, take a little bit of a holiday, okay? And the first thing I would do is just go on your keyboard, find a B flat, okay? And just hold up your mouthpiece, not quite to your lips, a little bit away from your lips, just so that you can, make a little, you can have that vision there, and then just blow. Am I making a B flat yet? B flat. Just do that for a solid 10 hours, and then I think all of your chop issues will be resolved. Now it's a balance. You got to get away from that, get away from the pipe, and then you got to sit down by the keyboard and blow a B flat until you can't anymore. Okay.
Off the crack pipe and onto the lead pipe.
She told him to. She told him to take a crack holiday.
Oh man, yeah, I see him down by the 10 cities.
Yeah. All right, we are absolutely going to send his wife a timestamp for this one. So yeah, she'll.
I'm sorry.
That's perfect.
Why?
They told me to say that.
For
They
what?
told me to say that.
That was no. They know he knows we didn't tell you to say that because that was more creative than anything that we would have gotten. Like
true.
like the 10 hours, and I like how it was finite too. Like at this point, she's laid it out, right? He either has to make a decision to not get through this, or to make a decision to get through this. It was very. You just held just like Lance did before. Like, so what are you going to do as soon as this is behind you? Yeah, you just did that to Jens. I'm just happy I haven't been on the receiving end of that yet. So, well, I want to talk to you about. We're out of time now, but I want to talk to you about the Flugabone, which we're going to do that for the. Yeah, we're going to do that in the bonus episode because she's got one there. Lance has got one there. I'm going to go like make a souffle or something, then I'll come back and just they won't even notice that I'm gone.
Who's speaking, please?
This has been Chanell. This has been awesome. You're
It's been awesome to talk.
Really
with you.
fun.
Yeah,
Finally, I'm on the Brass Junkies.
Yeah, right. She's been asking for years, and I'm like, no.
They've been having like other guests, so they're like, we'll catch you on a day.
Catch you on a day.
Now, although we tried to get her for 151 for the last episode, and then and she was like, I'm in. Then she's like, but I'm moving tomorrow, so it was maybe another. I was like, how about tomorrow then? That's perfect. Let's see how bad you want this. So no. So it's great. You put so much, two things. You put so much positivity out into the world, and you just put so much out into the world. And both of that is like exactly what we need in 2020. So thank you very much for that. And keep that up. And for our Patreon patrons, we're about to go in depth about the Chanell artist model Flugabone mouthpiece from Parker Mouthpieces, and talk to her about some other stuff as well. Which every guest we have the following week there is a bonus episode available only for our Patreon patrons, of which there are a lot now. So thank you to everybody who has done that. Patreon.com/thebrassjunkies. And I think, is there anything that I'm forgetting, Lance?
Yes, you should email Parker and ask him what would be the best mouthpiece to use for a Flugabone.
That's parkermouthpieces.com. Click on the Contact Us link, and and I would put the first line. I would tell his wife. I would say you should just make him read all of these. So yeah, I think that she should just.
Yeah, I feel a little bad because I didn't realize she was the one having to weed through them.
I didn't know that either. Although she's like the nicest person you could ever meet. So I think that she should toss that on his plate. But anyway,
agreed.
It's their business. So all right, Chanell, you're awesome. Thank you. And Lance, thank you.
Oh, no,
really,
thank you.
Really, you're a constant inspiration, Lance. I really am trying to sound like I mean it. So, all right, and that is going to do it for another episode of The Brass Junkies.
You've been listening to The Brass Junkies on the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network. If you would like to hear the bonus episode featuring today's guest, please visit patreon.com/thebrassjunkies to learn how you can support the show and instantly access all bonus materials, as well as gain access to a special patron-only Facebook group. The Brass Junkies is produced by the amazing, wonderful, and truly inspirational Will Houchin. The theme music was composed by Fernando Dados and performed by Andrew Hitz and Lance LaDuke. We are at Pray for Jens on Twitter and Instagram and have a Facebook page at facebook.com/prayforjens. You can find out more about the Brass Junkies and all the other Pedal Note Media podcasts at pedalnotemedia.com. This has been a presentation of the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network.